What is going on, YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to build a strong mentality, how to keep going when times get tough, and how to stay strong, not just physically but mentally, when these challenging things come up in our lives. Now, every single time in my life where we have these traumatic events, or maybe we have these sequences of events that don't pan out the way we want, we always have two routes, and two routes only. It's one is we can continue using that anger, that stress, that fear, whatever the feeling is, and put that energy into something positive to improve ourselves, make ourselves better. Given the circumstances, we can start to accept what is currently happening or what has happened, and we can start to improve from that. And the other option would just be like, okay, we're not working on doing that, so naturally we're just declining, right? Like we're just starting to take these habits that aren't aligning with where we want to go, and it's going to make the sequence of events far worse, right? And so whether it be like you lose a loved one, or a relationship ends, or a career change that's stressful, we always have the opportunity in life to choose which path do we want to go, right? It's really like, do we want to tackle this? I just stuttered there for a second. I don't know what I was going on. I'm going to cut that, but we always have the option. Do we want to tackle this head on? Do we want to face this challenge, this difficult time, and actually try, actually put our effort in, try to be strong, try to improve, and know that we're getting better through this journey. And in addition, practicing, working on the areas of life that we can control, because this area, maybe we can't control it, but there are other things in life that we can control, and that will make our life and also our perception of the current circumstances easier to manage, because we know that we're doing the things in our power. Now, it's very challenging to get to that point. It's very difficult to be hit down bad, whatever the term is, right? And you continue just working your way back up, building one brick at a time. It's tough. Maybe you lose a job, maybe you lose a family member, and that throws you out of your routine, or maybe you're trying to get into routine and then that just entirely wipes that all away, right? And I've been there myself personally, where it gets tough to stick with these things. But after a period of time, you just notice, bro, I'm going in the opposite direction. And you can literally feel that friction. You can feel yourself getting, just out of whack with things, right? And so, it's so much easier just doing it right in the then than waiting for all this time to pass. And you notice that when you continue working on yourself, bettering yourself during these tough times, that things actually get more manageable. And you notice that, okay, not just as physical exercise, as an example, going to make me feel stronger and feel better, with the endorphins released, my health is something that I'm prioritizing, but it's also something that, is going to mentally build you up. It's going to mentally make you, have to push through. When you have, 4 sets of 12, every single time I'm on a set, bro, and I'm about to stop at 10 or 12 reps, I think in my head, there's somebody out there that's doing more, right? Or I can do 3 more, right? And I'll do a set of 17, bro. I'll do 5 more. You literally can will your way into doing these things. And not to say that, you should be in the gym thinking fight or flight. Yes, you should, to an extent. Some people might argue it's not that serious, but what I'm getting at is what's so important about, when you're on those difficult sets at the end of the workout, is you are pushing yourself to your limits. That strengthens you physically, of course, but it also strengthens you mentally, because that this is something that I'm having challenges with, I'm struggling, and I'm continuing to work as hard as possible to, overcome these things. And over time, that just stacks up, right? And that will lead into the other avenues of your life. So whether it be your relationships, your careers, dealing with some of these events that might come up in your life, or having to make challenging circumstances, or I should say, making challenging decisions, all of these things get easier when you are constantly working on improving yourself, constantly working on bettering yourself. And so that's probably one of the main reasons that I've stuck with fitness for the 10 plus years, is because it's allowed me to become a better version of myself, to develop myself. And it's also allowed me to, stay humble, right? I remember when I first started working out, thinking that I was just going to work out hard for 1 year and then maintaining all the results. Now, keep in mind, I didn't do all the science and the background research before. This is when I was a young kid. But I really legitimately thought I could just get a six-pack, get a huge chest, and whatever. I didn't really care about legs back then. I do now. But I thought I could just get those things and maintain it for the rest of my life, right? And now as you get older, you realize, okay, this is something that I have to do for the rest of my life. And I remember at first thinking like, damn, that kind of sucks. But you realize that you actually enjoy it. And what is the whole purpose of having, physical stature, having a six pack, having the energy, the health you want? Just to like look at it like, bro, no, use it. Use that power, that fuel you have, and go make more of it, right? And so it's the exact same thing with everything in life. You always want to be progressing and improving on, working on getting to a step above, because if you're not progressing, naturally you're starting to regress, because your brain is going to look for the more comfortable things to do. So if you're telling it like, no, bro, I'm hitting you with challenge after challenge, hard time after hard time, because I'm going to get stronger at the end of this. And now, obviously, not all the time are these things planned. Sometimes you have to go through things that aren't something that you want to ultimately happen, but that's just part of life, right? And that's just like something that you have to understand is like, okay, it's going to maybe bring me down now in terms of how I'm feeling, but it's going to increase who I am as a person in the long term, because I'm going through more of these events, right? Rather than just like wishing and hoping that they don't happen and, running from them, right? Like you are actually, getting stronger because you're going through these tough times, right? And so whether you are in this period where you're like, something's, not feeling good, I feel some friction and I'm falling out of my routine, or you just want to get back into the routine, think long term. And it's easier said than done, but this is extremely important, what I'm about to say. This is why you need to attach what you are doing to something that brings you peace, happiness, and joy inside. Now, there will be times across any journey. I remember one of the first businesses I worked for when I worked alongside, a company, right, is basically, I remember this individual saying, hey, no matter what, and it was with health and fitness and sports related. So I thought it was super interesting at first, and it was, pretty fun. But I remember one of the first things he told me was, no matter what business you're in, no matter like how much passion you have, there are always going to be times where it sucks and you actually hate what you're doing. Like he said, something along those lines. And it's so true, right? There will always be these times. But if you can tie, knowing that those tough times and those good times are going to be half and half, give or take, or maybe less, right? But knowing that there's going to have to be both, instead of associating with the good and associating with the bad, associate the entire thing with something positive, something that makes you feel happy, peace, right? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Oh, I'm doing it because X, Y, and Z. And this will allow you to be at more peace with it, enjoy these things more. And it all comes down to like, if this thing is challenging, if this is difficult to you, you're putting it, on your, you're putting it, on the top of your priority list, right? And so if you go through these challenging times, you'll find that, at the end of them, you are a much stronger individual than had you gone in the opposite direction and ran from these problems, right? And put these things off. Because we always have these two options in life. We always have the option of facing the difficult things, not just physically, but mentally, like accepting these things for what has happened or what is currently happening or what is out of your control. Accepting it and, becoming aware of like, this is okay, bro. This is part of life. These are things that are going to, ultimately work out in the best, not just for myself, but for the people around me, right? And so when you start to realize that everything is just literally a domino, and so some of the dominoes are going to fall over and it's going to be a round of applause. The other times the domino knocks over and it's not something ideal, but ultimately it leads to that final domino falling down. In a sense, I think you guys can pick up where I'm going with this, where, all of these things figure themselves out. And so if we hold on to, wondering why certain things happen in life, if we hold on, like questioning why it is that we don't have the life that we want, or that we don't have the people in our lives that we want here, it makes it more difficult, because there's really no changing that. As unfortunate as it is, we don't always need to know the answer why to some of these things. Some of these questions that we might have, like some of these difficult circumstances that we just like want to like pray to God and say like, why is this happening, right? we might not always know that answer, and that's like totally fine. But we realize as we continue to go on this process that things get easier, things get better, we become stronger. We look back on that time and we realize that a lot of the tough feelings that we were facing during that time were heightened emotions because of, the things that had happened, and we didn't think them through fully logically because we just had so much emotion attached to it. And now, of course, emotion is a big part. But when you can sit logically with yourself and know, like, hey, these things are out of my control. These things are things that do not need to be stressed over anymore. They don't need more time, attention, or focus on the why about the bad, about like why this thing's happening or why this thing happened in my life. When we can just learn to accept how it is and just accept it and let go and understand like life is not always the way we want it to be, and that's okay. We also have the ability to perceive these things, right? So we have the perception of, is this thing going to affect me for the rest of my life? Or am I going to have a different lens on it, and look at it in a different way, right? And like prime example, if you have somebody that maybe you had a close relationship with for quite some time and things don't pan out. In the past, I used to look at the negative circumstances about like, why didn't it work out? And I would just ultimately be more down because of that. And when I started to really shift it as to, I'm grateful for the time I had with that individual. Like, I'm grateful for the experiences we made. I'm grateful for those tough times, whether or not you're in a relationship, you lose a family member, you're by yourself, whatever, going through whatever. There are always going to be those times when you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I did all that stuff, right? And like, I can't believe, personally, like, I can't believe like I sacrificed, a lot of just things when I was starting to take this entrepreneurial route. Whereas, I just started to sacrifice a lot of things and then putting my business first, and not getting adequate sleep and being able to socialize quite as much as I wanted to. Over the span of a couple of years, I started to really understand that like, this is really where, I see my life going. Like, okay, maybe it's not ideal now, but I'm making the necessary I'm making the necessary sacrifices so that my life can pan out. And I started to realize that I had the ability to perceive the life I wanted to be. So as an example, when I was working 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. shifts, which was insane. Now, granted, I wasn't working all the way through, but I was at the gym for those hours because I had all these clients and I had breaks in between. During those times, it was very challenging at first because it's like, damn, I have to drive in, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it was frustrating because I didn't have time to socialize. I didn't have time to, go out with friends. And so I honestly stopped hanging out with a lot of people, stopped having a lot of close relationships. Even at work, a lot of like the relationships at work I had with friends and whatnot, it just didn't work because I had to always be there, right? And so I started to look at that for a while I looked at that as like, this is not fair and whatever. And not just as it's not fair, or more so like, this sucks. Like, I wish I was doing other things. And I started to put two and two together. Like, I legitimately want to run a fitness business. Like, the only thing I don't really like about this, is not being able to have my own schedule, right? And when I started to put two and two together, like, I'm the only reason that I'm upset with the circumstances I have is because I'm allowing myself to, want something that I don't have now. Right. And so I started to understand, like, I can, instead of, being mad all the time, I can just enjoy this and be like, I'm so glad that I have, the ability to spend all day, every day at the gym. And I started to do that and work out so much easier, even though a lot of those nights when I was working at the gym at these corporate gyms, they don't care about, their staff or their community. And so they'll hire 25 to 30 trainers, right? And they'll just be like, okay, boom, here's your shifts. And they'll assign you random people on random hours and random shifts. And some of that too is like, hey, do you want this client at 5 a.m. or do you want like no money in your paycheck? Like, okay, you're going to choose one or the other. And so over time you get into this cycle where, you really just don't have any social life working at a big gym, especially something like, Lifetime, Equinox, these sorts of clubs. They really don't care about you, right? Especially if you're the top salesman in the entire, in that entire location, like as I was. I sold the most amount of sales in number one, and I was number two for a while. Now, out of like 25, 30 trainers, as soon as they say like, hey, stuff's not working out, they're going to put that on you. And so I took that as, okay, like if I have the ability to grind and put everything into this other business, why would I not just do that into my own business, right? Especially when these people, like, after all of that, are still going to say like, hey, you're not doing things the way we want. Like, bro, okay, then do things the way you want. And so in that circumstance, for example, with the work related, I, for a while, had this belief that like I should have been, treated better because like I'm this top tier employee. And I don't even like using that word, or coworker, or whatever it is. I don't even like using that word, bro. That shit pisses me off. But I just hated like, feeling restricted, feeling like, I can't be the things that I want to be. And I'm having these people tell me that like what I'm doing is they want me to do it a different way. Like, bro, I'm the one that built muscle for myself and for my clients, not you. So like, I'm going to train my clients the way that I want to do, right? And the exact same thing is like, how am I supposed to do this long term? Like, it's not going to work out. And so slowly but surely, I just started to kind of shift away, pull back, and ultimately, left that job. And where I'm at now is a point where, I can make my own hours. I can work for myself. I can pour into my business. And these are things that bring me passion, that bring me purpose. And when you have your passion, your purpose, and your vision all aligned, all three of these things in that triangle sense, or whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call it, life just becomes so much more enjoyable. So like for myself, like literally, bro, I wake up and like, what do I do in the morning time? Like, okay, like I wake up and I just pour my energy into working on my business, and what goes into my business, it's also fitness. So, okay, that's part of, what it is. And I can just focus on that all day, every day. And I know that my purpose, my mission, my vision is going to help the others around me, my family, my friends, these sorts of things. And I can just focus on that one thing. Now, when I was working in person, I was focusing on working this job and trying to find time to, work on my business. You need to go all in on one thing or the other, and not for the time aspect. It's just my personal preference. I know Gary Vaynerchuk and these sorts of guys, these cats say certain things like, hey, you can work, evenings, right? But what I'm getting at is, I felt like what was going on with my stress levels, like, the events going on in my life, I felt like I needed to just pick one. I felt like I could never, through all the times that I was balancing coaching people and becoming an entrepreneur and then also working a job, during all those times, I never once was at a point where I had good equilibrium. It was either, okay, my online business is like fucking cranking, bro, like it's doing great. My clients are making stellar progress. But it's like, damn, now I have to go into this meeting at my job because they're wondering like why like my numbers are down. And it's just like, damn. And then the opposite perspective is true too. It's like, okay, like now I'm working at this business. I'm sacrificing my sleep. I'm sacrificing my health. I'm sacrificing my nutrition, my training. They're not really letting me record videos during my sets. Like there's these stupid rules. And so it's like I'm sacrificing all of these things in addition to getting 4 hours of sleep at night and not having time to record or not having creative focus to work on my business. So it's like, okay, now my in-person, it wasn't even an in-person business. It was an in-person business, quote unquote, but I'm working for a manager. I'm working a 9-to-5 job, except without the security of the 9 to 5 hours and without the security of, a paycheck, right? It was just really percentages that they take from the sales that you're making. And so when you start to conceptualize like, okay, I just sold this to this person. I could have just done that and sold them my own product, that's way better and that actually gets these people results. And, I would have been able to like shift my life like that. So when I started to put two and two together, I started to just realize, I do want to make a change for my life. And during that time, I realized, again, back to my initial point, I kind of went on a tangent there, but back to my initial point, I realized that we have the ability, we have the choice to perceive things the way we want. And we have the choice to allow these things to control us or to control how that thing affects us, right? And we also have the control to not think about that thing and to not put any attention or energy towards that thing. But you see, most people don't do that. Just need to check the time, make sure I plenty of time before my next client call. But yeah, guys, like, we have the ability to perceive things in the light we want. And so what that means is that if something happens to us, we don't have to react that way. We can choose to react a different way. Now, not to say you shouldn't act another way, but I think it's helpful knowing that we have the control over our emotions. We have the control to allow these things to affect us and to destroy us and bring us down and make us worse and make life way harder and make us fall into these poor habits, these poor choices, and this cycle of, being down and being gloomy over what has happened in the past. Or and we also have the choice to, flip that and say, like, hey, that sucks, blah, 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 blah. Accept it. It's very challenging now, but I know that it will feel easier and it will, be better with time. And if you don't believe me on that, then just think back to the last time that you were really stressing over something. Maybe you were praying over it, whatever, you were really worried, anxious, and then 2-3 weeks go by, you completely forgot about that thing because it never happened. When you can think through and even just think back to times like that, it makes you put things into perspective and realize, like, yeah, this isn't going to probably affect me in a little bit of time. So, instead of letting my emotions get worked up and take the best of me, let me think through these things and give it the energy, the attention it needs, but know that I'm becoming stronger. Not like if I choose to, then I'm becoming stronger through this, right? And so when you have these circumstances come up in life, instead of taking that route of going out with friends to drink, going to the bar to, party and meet new people, right? Like, bro, do the things that are going to help you become better. Work on your fitness, prioritize your health, eat clean. Do the things that are important to you. Like, why are you going to do something that you don't want to do? If you want to drink, bro, then there's a reason behind it. There's a reason that you don't feel happy enough, confident enough, social enough, sober, or without a social group, bro. And so at times you need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. But like, prioritize your health, prioritize the gym, prioritize your nutrition, prioritize working on yourself, growing, whatever it is that you're growing, right? And because you notice that one day, when it's all said and done, as unfortunate and as sad as it is, everybody is going to be gone besides you. And you also have to remember that your life, you are spending the majority of your time by yourself. Meaning that maybe you have a family, maybe you have friends, but even just physically, the only person like that knows you the most is yourself, because you've spent so many times working on yourself. And so if you can realize that this is truly like my best friend right here, this is the person that, I'm going to work on, I'm going to build a good relationship with, then you notice that all the other relationships get better, because people are attracted to people that have, positivity within them, or people that are working on themselves. And this is so true. Every single time in my life when I've been at a spot where, I was down bad and I wasn't in a good spot and I wasn't putting my main goals first, and I was just trying to fit in with people, I always attracted, friends or girls that were, just not fit for me, right? And it was always at times where I was working on myself, working on developing myself, my fitness, my health, etc., where I had those long-term friends, those like good women, those people come to me where it's like, okay, like, this is a much higher quality person given what my circumstances are and given what my standards are, right? And why is this person coming to me when I haven't searched out and found them? It's because you're working on yourself, and these other people see this and they're like, wow, I want to be more like this person. I want to be around this individual. And so know that you have those two choices. You can choose to make things worse for yourself, which I think we've all done in life, or you can make the choice to go the opposite direction and build brick by brick up, stack day over day confidence. Now, the best way to just get yourself out of this tough circumstance that you might be in is starting with small daily habits. It seems very cliche, but if you're starting with something as simple as going for a walk, the main reason that that's so important is you're telling yourself, like, I'm just going to take 5 to 10 minutes to allow my brain to flow freely. I'm going to allow myself to get some adrenaline, some blood flow, just move my body. And I'm also going to get some exercise. And it seems corny, but most people just don't do that. Like, myself included, for the longest time. And I still at times, like, I haven't really walked in a couple days. But I've walked, but I haven't gone on a walk, I should say. But I think it's really the habit that builds up, that 5 to 10 minute walk. That 20 minutes going to the gym. Bro, so many times I would go to the gym for just 10 minutes and leave. And no word of exaggeration, I did that for a very long time when I was in a funk to get myself back into, like, the routine. And the reason for that is it builds up these habits. So, like, you can start with these small things, and eventually you notice the harder things get easier. So, for example, if you're looking to, get into health, better health, you need to understand why you're doing that in the first place. And when you understand that, maybe it's that you're going to actually feel better and, like, be happier and maybe have better emotions that are more regulated when you're prioritizing your nutrition. And maybe you start off with, like, something that's not extremely healthy. It's, like, kind of regular food, but it's not junk food. And then the next thing you do is you eat something, like, that's a little bit better than that, and then you just continue that cycle, and pretty soon, bro, you're eating a very healthy diet because you started with the small habits, right? So, like, myself personally, there were times where, like, I was just in a bad rut and I was not, eating quality food. And how did I get back into it? Well, I just started to do small things, like, okay, let me start eating protein bars. Like, I know it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but, like, it's better than the candy or whatever, right? And then from there, you go into, like, okay, well, let me start eating chicken again, chicken breast, right? So I'll get, like, some, like, fried chicken meal from the store. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, let me get, like, a grilled chicken prepped meal. And then you eat that, and it's like, okay, that wasn't that bad. Like, I actually want to make my own chicken. And now you're making grilled chicken from home and sweet potato, for example. It's just an example there that shows, like, how, like, you start with one simple habit and it carries over. And next thing you know, like, people ask me, like, yo, how are you eating 93.7 ground turkey and like 7 eggs and an avocado in the morning, and that's, like, your breakfast? Like, I did that for, like, so long. And the reason for that is, like, I started to just eat better slowly over time, and I started to crave more of those healthy foods, and I started to crave less of the other ones. I actually was, like, despising those foods. I was like, I don't want these, right? And so it's like that with anything in life. Just like with the gym example, like, you go to the gym, maybe you don't even go inside. There are times I've done that myself too, bro. You don't even go inside the gym. You just drive there, bro. You sit in the parking lot, you think about going in, and then you're like, fuck this shit, and then you leave. And then I'm not saying do that, bro. Don't ever do that, bro. But, like, that's at least something. You're at least thinking about taking the action, right? And then once you do that enough times, you realize, like, yo, like, I was just wasting all that time. Like, why don't I just do it now? And these things carry over. So, like, during those times in the past where I was going through some circumstances, like losing family members, these sorts of things, relationships that didn't work out, I started to shift away from the things that were truly meant for me, the things that brought me fulfillment, happiness, got me through these tough times in the beginning, got me through these tough times to begin with, right? And so I started to slowly windle my way back in, and it's like that with anything, bro. Another example, I'm just gonna keep pouring these in, and then we're gonna wrap the video up under 30 minutes. But, like, with a book, for example, you see a book, right? You order a book or whatever, somebody gives you a book, you see, 469 pages. That's a lot of fucking books. But then you realize, okay, there's only 17 pages in chapter 1. That's not that bad. Let me read, like, a third of the chapter. And then you read, next thing you know, you read 8 pages, and you're like, this is good, I want to keep going. Now, next thing you know, you just read 10 pages. Okay, boom, put the book down, come back to it, and read another 10. Boom. Another 10, boom. Now it's like, oh, I want to keep reading. I'm reading faster, I'm reading more efficiently. I'm understanding this, and it's catching my attention. Like, boom. Now you got through the book in a week or 5 days, whatever, right? Like, these habits pick up, and we become more efficient at performing these simple things. And so the carryover and the interest that compounds from these habits is extremely underrated. Most people do not understand the habits that come from, like, going to the gym. And, like, I by no means am saying that I'm the most, like, organic, holistic person in the world. I still have things that I'm trying to improve upon. But, like, moral of the story is simply by just focusing on a couple small habits has allowed me to dive deep into other avenues, right? Like I never got into prioritizing my nutrition and becoming a nutrition coach until I started taking my fitness serious, right? Because the way I always looked at it was, well, if I'm struggling to build muscle now, why am I going to go on a diet, right? It seems so funny now saying it, because it's like I was literally eating the wrong foods that were not helping me build muscle and stay lean. And yeah, I was lean, but I wasn't really like, my abs weren't popping the way I wanted, and I wasn't building muscle. So I was looking at it, it was like, my perception back then was like, well, if I eat a diet, I'm gonna lose weight and be even skinnier. Thinking back on it now, it's like, bro, if you just eat a diet, which it doesn't always mean less food, it's just you're eating a specific way, I would be, where I'm at much sooner. And it's funny because you think like that for so long, and then eventually you're like, like it wasn't until I started to have a little bit more body fat than I would have liked that I was like, okay, now let me start to take this a little bit more serious. Or it wasn't until like I was like, oh, it's a summertime, I want my abs to be popping when I go to the beach in 3 days. Like, let me really start like cracking down. Like, and yeah, granted, I was already lean. I didn't need to do a ton at that time because I stayed in pretty good shape throughout the year. But yeah, really what I want you guys to get from this video is just like these things carry over into life. And a lot of times I think people look at it as like, bro, it's just the gym or whatever. It's the gym, yeah, but in the sense, I don't know if I'm gonna get shadow banned for this, hopefully not. It's like a gateway drug in a sense, where you get into fitness, bro, you realize, how confident it makes you feel, how much you're capable of, and that allows you to start to believe in yourself more. And when you start to believe in yourself more, you start to want to take better actions, make better decisions, and ultimately it allows you to perceive life differently. And so maybe you go to the gym, you start working out, and because of that, you feel better about yourself. And then maybe after that, you leave the gym and you're feeling better about yourself. And then maybe you throw on a podcast on your way home from the gym. Maybe on the way home from the gym, when you're listening to that podcast, they say something that sticks with you, and you're like, damn, I never thought about it that way. Or I didn't believe it was possible for me, but he just made it seem like it was. And then maybe that leads to, okay, there is something that I do have interest in and I want to learn more about. And then like, okay, let me figure out how to do this thing. And then maybe you find a video on it, or maybe you research an article about it. And the next thing you know, it's like, yo, I'm genuinely like so interested in this thing. I want to, start doing this in my life. And now it's like, okay, maybe you just go across that process and like you build the business that you want from literally the simple fact of going to the gym one time allowed you to create, this business that you want to live and help grow and help other people through, right? And same thing, like maybe you're into, I don't know, like maybe you're struggling with losing weight, right? And maybe the reason that you're struggling with losing weight is likely a variety of things. It's not just one thing. Like so many people say it's just you're overeating. Like, yeah, that's it. But there's a lot of psychology. There's a lot of habits that have been instilled that are not allowing you to have the look that you want and not allowing you to lose weight. And so a lot of times we have this one action that leads into a bunch of other actions. And so like for you, if you're watching this video and say like you're looking to lose weight, maybe the reason that you're not losing weight is maybe you're going to the gym, you're doing all these things, but you don't believe deep down that it's possible for you to lose weight. And because you don't believe it's possible, you're going to the gym sometimes, you're eating okay in the kitchen or whatever, but you're not doing everything in your power to accomplish the goal because you don't believe it's possible. And so I think oftentimes it's this one thought, this one event, or this one circumstance that like we just take action on and we just do something because times are tough. We'd rather do something than sit there and sulk about it. And that thing leads into a domino effect of other positivities in our life. And that leads to momentum and us feeling more confident about ourselves and us feeling better about ourselves. And now, like, because of that, we're hammering away, not because we're trying to prove somebody or something, but because we genuinely find interest in it and we're like, wow, I want to uncover the best, greatest, truest potential of myself. And then going through that whole process, you realize, wow, like I just came up, or I should say found, my passion. And through that passion is what allows you to continue helping other people. And then from that point, you can tell people that were in your shoes, like when times get tough, bro, here are things that have helped you. And this is exactly what I'm doing, bro, because I've been down bad. I've been in times where like, yo, shit hit the fan, bro. Like family members pass away, bro, relationships ends, like family members die, bro, friends die, bro. Like I've had all this fucking shit happen, bro. And the one thing that always allowed me to fucking keep going is, bro, no, I can go into the gym and fucking lift some weight. And yeah, bro, lifting weights is not always gonna solve my problem, but going into the gym is making me mentally, physically fucking stronger, bro, because the shit fucking sucks. But I'm continuing to improve and get stronger. Because if you don't do that, then your brain will continue looking for the negative side of things. Your brain will continue looking for the downfalls, the bad things that aren't fair. And you will continue feeling worse about yourself, and as an outcome of that, you will be performing worse. You will be doing things that don't align with where you want to go. You won't be putting yourself first, and you ultimately will not be enjoying the life that you want. So choose the avenue that you want to go. Do you want to make it harder on yourself and more difficult, or do you want to make it easier on yourself? And like, we really have the perception on both sides. Do we want to make this thing seem and be perceived as though it's challenging, difficult, or do we want to look at it as like, it's not that hard, bro? Because that so much makes a big difference. That right there makes a huge difference. I look at building muscle, getting jacked. Like, for example, when I was trying to build my legs up, like, these are the things. I looked at it as like, bro, I can do that without a fucking doubt, bro. Watch me. I looked at it that way, bro. And because of that, my actions aligned with, like, watch me lift 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, like, whatever. Oh, I don't even know where I was going with that. But, like, watch me work out once, maybe twice, 3 times a day. Like, why, bro? Because I want this shit, bro. And most people are not willing to do that. Working out 30 straight days, bro, 40 straight days, most people don't do that, bro. But then also, most people are like, yo, bro, how do you, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yo, you have to put the work in, right? And through all these times, all these hard circumstances in my life, the one thing I always devoted my life to was, you know, self-improvement. And through that was, you know, fitness, right? Like finding my passion for fitness and helping others through this. And also understanding what I truly am capable of, because I'm far from, you know, where I want to be. And the amount of hearts I want to touch, the amount of people I want to help is far under the number I want it to be, to say the least. And as you continue going on this journey, you will notice how much more improvement comes from, you know, believing in yourself, taking the actions, and choosing your path, right? Because we all have the choice. We have the power. It seems cliche, but we have the power right here, literally in our palm, bro. Like this thing right here, our palm, we literally have the control of our life, right? Like just like driving in a car, do we want to steer left or do we want to steer right? Right? We're going to have to turn at some point, bro. The lane is coming to an end. We need to turn, bro. We need to figure out what we want to do. But if we want to figure out what we want to do, then we just have to make a decision. So, bro, just decide. Are you going to allow this circumstance that's not fair? I'm not saying, like, I'm not blaming you, bro. It's not fair, bro. It sucks. It's not fair that these things happen, that these circumstances and these outcomes, you know, happen and are the way they are. But at the end of the day, there's not really much you can do about it except accept it. Work on improving yourself and knowing that whatever the outcome of the circumstance is, it's over with. But I cannot change anything. The only thing I can change is how it affects me, right? Like, do I want this circumstance to tear me apart, to break me down over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years because of my perception? Like, literally because of my perception. Like, imagine that, bro. Imagine thinking, like, this one event in my life happened one time, and my perception, my own belief, like how I thought about it in my brain, not the event itself, but the belief around it, for like 20 years, bro, like made me do all these actions and regret all this stuff. Like, bro, imagine that, bro. Don't let that shit happen, bro. You have the control to allow these things, to just look at these things differently. And that doesn't mean, you know, like, stop caring about shit, but what it means is know that you cannot change the circumstances that you are dealt, or the position you're in at the current moment. Like, certain things you can, but not everything can you change. And those things that are out of your control, the only thing you really have control over is how that scenario that event, affects you and how you perceive it, how you look at it. Do you learn from it? Do you grow from it? Do you become stronger from it? Do you see what you want to avoid with your life? And do you try to help other people get out of that situation? And do you try to, point people in a better direction because of what you've gone through? Or do you just let it literally tear you apart and, make it worse for you and the people around you? The choice is always yours, bro, but you need to choose which avenue you want to go. And I highly, highly, highly suggest that you guys go on the side that is going to allow you to evolve, to get stronger, to become the person that you want to become. And during all of these times, it's going to suck. It's going to feel hard, but if you know your why and what you're doing behind all of this, then that will continue pushing you, continue giving you that turbo boost you need. For my Mario Kart friends out there. But in all seriousness, guys, choose where it is that you want to go with your life, because you literally can turn left or right. You can't keep going straight anymore. You cannot keep driving. You need to turn left or right. Either choose that you're going to let this fuck you up, bro, and excuse my French, but you're going to allow this one outcome to shape your life, or choose the opposite, which is, I'm going to, learn from this, grow from this, get stronger through this, improve, change, become a stronger individual mentally, physically, etc. But you have to choose one. And so when you make that turn, you realize that these things don't change. These events don't change, but your perception on them changes. And so when your perception on things changes, you start to look at the positive side of things rather than the negative things. And you start to now look at life in this lens whereby you only start to see the good things coming, or maybe from that event, that circumstance that was so difficult for you, you're only starting to see the positive side from that, because that's how you framed it and that's how you started to perceive it, and that will carry over into all aspects of life. And now pretty soon, everything in your life that happens is always a good thing, because it's improving you, bringing you forward. And you now notice that every time you do something and you start to think about in the past, like regret and whatever, that it's literally just making you worse. And so when you can think through these two things, it makes it far easier deciding. But you need to decide what the decision is that you're going to make and go one way or the other. And again, I highly suggest that you guys will your way through the brick wall, continue staying strong, continue going, continue making it uncomfortable on yourself, because when it's uncomfortable, that is the time when you grow, when you expand, and that is what we want. Continued growth over the long haul, continue inspiring, continue helping people. That's really my main mission. My YouTube is a lot more mindset, and for those of you guys that want to check out my Instagram, it's JStroudFit. But on Instagram, the reason it's a lot more mindset is because that's what stems everything. And without the proper mindset, without the proper belief systems, without the proper just perception on who we are, where we're trying to go, and our circumstances, without any of these things that all again start in the mind, then the other stuff doesn't ever matter, bro. Because you're not going to align with it. And so that's what I want to talk about here is just mindset and knowing that you truly have the power to shape the life that you want. So just decide, bro. It doesn't have to be this emotional thing where it's challenging to make a decision. You can just choose, I no longer want to associate with these types of feelings, and I no longer want to feel sorry for myself for this circumstance I'm in. And I no longer want to think back on the past and wonder why, or wonder what if, or want to know the answer to questions that I don't know. I just want to get somewhere else. And, where I'm at right now, I just want to be in the present moment and work towards getting myself to a different space that, I'm happy on the process, on the journey. Because there's always going to be that journey. There's going to be the journey towards betterment, self-improvement while you're enjoying where you're at now. Or there's going to be the process of getting in your own head, thinking backwards, taking steps back, and none of us want that. So boys, thanks for watching this video. If you guys resonated with this YouTube video, give me a comment here on YouTube. And yeah, no other points here. We're going to end it up Now, I said briefly that 30 minutes the video was going to be done. I went over about like 15, but I appreciate you guys listening, and just know that you truly have, you know, the control to shape the life that you want. So make that choice and do it your way, bro.